Hey folks, Tim Miller here, and I know I don't have to convince you that things are changing drastically in America. And folks, I got to tell you, the things we used to do and not even think about, we now need to think about. This is not about doom and gloom. This is about wisdom and preparation as we see the numbers of events increase, the severity of events increase. It's calling all of us to rise up and to become prepared for what we're seeing in terms of violence and all kinds of activities. Well, the one thing that really gets my bones shaking is when people begin to abduct women and sometimes men into human trafficking. And folks, I'll tell you, having worked just on the edge of that in my professional career, there's nothing more horrifying for these precious women than to be snatched from their life and to put into a horror nightmare night after night. And I want to share with you an incident that happened this week, 2 days ago, outside of Phoenix, Arizona. Now, let me caveat, not totally sure what this is about, but this is what happened. It's 11:15 at night. Car pulls up to get gas. Notice the white car. As soon as the car stops, a girl bails out and starts running. Oh, but the guy's not letting her go. He drags her back to the car. He's pulling her in the car against her will. He very, very quickly realizes, look at the coward look around. Look at him look around. He's hoping nobody noticed. He gets in his car and he drives this girl away. Now, the news is reporting and the police are reporting that they have no idea who, number one, the victim is, or number two, the bad guy is. But look at this precious girl. No telling what happened after she was pulled back into a car and driven off. And folks, let me just say this about this. This channel is all about equipping you with the skill you need in crisis situations. Everything I'm sharing to you, everything I have learned as a Marine officer, I've learned as a police officer, I've learned as a Secret Service agent, and I've learned training agents at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Point, this is not theory. All of the stuff I'm sharing with you is critical information that does you no good unless you put it into practice. And so I want to talk to you about something as simple as going to a gas station and filling up your car. Well, this is really tailored to the women in our lives, the moms, the girls, the folks that when they drive into a gas station, could be more vulnerable just because, as we saw in this incident, some big thug that's physically stronger can grab them and take them away. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about gas stations, how we all should do it, men, women, how should we all should be way more aware of what's going on, paying attention. And folks, it starts with putting this stupid thing away. When you get out of your car, it may be important that you have it, but it's important that you have it in the back pocket of your pants, not in your face. And so let's start with being observant. But let's start, as we always do with these incidents, let's take another quick look at it because it's important. Now, notice the vehicle drives in, and where does he drive to? Well, even bad guys are smart. You drive to the first pump. Why is that? Well, first off, he knows if he has to make a quick getaway, he can. And when the girl breaks and runs, she runs, and we'll talk about this, in a direction where he can quickly overtake her. But what about everybody else? What's everybody else doing? Oh, by the way, absolutely nothing. And then he casually was going to get gas. He casually pulls away. I'm sure he made sure before he pulled into the next gas station that she wouldn't be getting out of the car. And folks, I got to tell you, it just breaks my heart that that girl right there had to go through this. And it never, ever, ever should happen to any of us. So let's do what we always do. Let's talk about the before, the during, and the after. Let's talk about practical things, not theory. And I'm not slamming anybody. I hear a lot of YouTube channels that talk about what we should do in a gunfight, but they've never been in a gunfight. Or what we should do in crisis situations, but they've never been in crisis situations. Why do I say that? It matters that you get information that is tested. It's tested in crisis. It's information that you know that you can execute in a crisis, and the information can help you survive. Let me give you an example. I hear a lot of folks going, oh, well, women should have pepper spray or guys should have pepper spray. Folks, I've deployed pepper spray hundreds of times, and I'm going to tell you, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Is it a tool? Yes. But if somebody says, well, you should use pepper spray, or, your keys, that's another one. I'll use my keys to strike somebody. Maybe not the best plan. So let's talk about what some really good plans are in the before, the during, and the after. Let's talk about the before. If you notice, the bad guy did the right thing. He pulled into the pump that enabled him to do a quick getaway. You should do the same thing. Well, why is that, Tim? Because God forbid, if you have to get in the vehicle, get out of there quickly because of whatever, there's not a car blocking you and there are not cars all around you. You're able to get and go. Good practice. Pull to the front pump. Make sure that you're situationally aware. The second thing is, when you get out of the car, you turn the car off, obviously for safety and fire reasons, but you take this with you. And while you're pumping gas, especially if it's on the other side, not the driver's side, but the other side, but actually both sides, you have your finger on this wonderful little red button. Why do we do that? If you see something that presents a danger coming towards you, you depress that button. Why do we do that? Well, now all of a sudden, the car alarm's going off. Beep, beep, beep. So if someone's walking towards you to do harm or to try to rob you, now they know everybody's watching you. Do you know that in a study, people that depressed a car alarm got way more attention from people that were passersby than someone that was screaming help? And that's shocking, but it's true based on research, because a lot of people figure, oh, that's probably an argument between husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't want to get involved in all that. But when you depress that button, people look because they wonder if it's their car or what's going on. You want attention. So while you're gassing up, you have this in your hand. You're looking around, steady looking around. You're pumping the gas. But you also have a plan before about how you would protect yourself, how you would gain time and distance to get to your car and get out of there. And folks, that plan has to be practiced and it has to be proficient. What am I talking about? Well, I just told you about pepper spray. Let me ask you a question. If you have pepper spray, have you ever been sprayed with pepper spray? No. Well, guess what? You have no idea what's going to happen in the middle of a high stress situation when you're trying your defensive tool for the very first time. So if you have pepper spray, get another one and be sprayed with it. Don't spray it in your face, spray it close to you so you get the effect. Let me warn you, sprayed a lot of people. If they're high on drugs, there are other issues, it has no effect. So if that's your fallback, that's my defensive weapon, good luck. So before an incident, do we want to train? Do we want to have tools that you can use to defend yourself? Should you decide in today's world that you want to legally buy a firearm, that's your choice. But I will tell you, A firearm purchase is a lifetime commitment of safety and practice, not a one-time purchase. I've heard a lot of people say, well, I got my gun in my purse. Really? What's the first thing that a thug's going to take from you if you're caught in an unexpected robbery? And oh, by the way, folks, you don't get to go, hey, could you wait just 1 second to where I get into my purse? No. And here's the not so good part. These robberies are getting more and more violent. Now we've got a wave of immigrants that have been let out of prisons for violent conduct in their own country. And now they're here and they're amongst us. Oh, Tim, you're racist. No, I'm just going to talk about a young, precious nursing student in Georgia that was just going for a jog and was beaten to death by a thug criminal from another country. It is what it is, folks. We've got to be prepared before. How would you fight an attacker off? How would you avoid being abducted at a gas station? What are your skills? Let me encourage you, young people, you better get into some kind of self-defense formal training. You know, I've watched many times in my career a fit, skilled young woman put down big men. Why? Because they know what to do. They're not afraid. They're not going to be the victim. They're going to be the victor. That's your choice, folks. You get to be the victim or the victor. So before we're going to have a plan, we're going to be mentally alert, we're going to have a specific plan for how we gas up our cars. And the bottom line is that's what we're going to do every time. We're going to practice it every time. Every time we do it, we get a little better, we get a little more alert. And then when we need it, bam, it's just autopilot. That's where we want to be. Okay, let's talk about the during. So in this case, she had been abducted. But what if she hadn't been abducted? What if she was pumping gas and this thug came to abduct her? What do we do then? There are two things, folks, that you desperately want to be able to do if you're approached, if somebody's on you and you got to gain space and distance. And that's number one, use some kind of defensive tactic to gain space, distance, and time. Because if you notice what she did, she panicked. She broke and ran in a way that allowed the attacker to catch her like that. And now she's right back into trouble again. Versus what should you do during? Well, number one is you're screaming as loud as you can. He's kidnapping me. I don't know him. And you're running towards someone. Folks, when you're running towards someone, you're putting someone in a position that they have to decide to help you or they have to decide to turn their back. But most people, most good American people, which is who I'm talking to, they're going to choose to help you in some way. It may be they unlock their door, you jump in the car and they take off. Maybe that's one option. It may be they're prepared. And that's what I hope this channel does. I hope and pray everybody gets prepared, because I'll tell you, folks, and I know you agree, I'm getting sick of watching the victims rise and the thugs not be held accountable. And that's what this channel is about. And I don't care, it's not about politics, liberal or conservative. I want everybody to be safe. And what I know is this: evil loves to not be challenged. Evil loves it. Not me, and I hope not you. We're going to challenge evil. That precious girl comes running towards your car. I don't care how old you are, what you're going to, what your makeup is. I certainly hope that you're wising up and preparing. But that little girl runs, not little girl, she's a woman. That woman runs towards your car. I hope you would have a plan to say, oh no, not on my watch. Get in, and scream off, or whatever you can do. There are some out there listening. You're going to be able to take decisive action. You're going to be able to take legal action and stop this craziness. Oh, Tim, what do you mean by legal action? Remember, I've told you this on the channel repeatedly. 3 things you better have if you decide to step in and use force, whether to protect yourself or others. The first is you better know the law of your state. You better have read that law cover to cover. You should have looked at case law related to that. You should know the law. The second thing is you better be able to identify the facts that allow you to take action under the law. Well, what do you mean by the facts, Tim? Well, I've heard this all over. I train firearms. Our organization trains use of force. Oh, well, all you got to say is I'm in fear for my life. Well, I want to assure you that's totally wrong. Being in fear for your life may be a statement that helps you if, if, if you have facts to back it up. Well, I was in fear for my life because he was running at me with a knife, screaming, I'm going to kill you. Actually, the fear for your life part is secondary to the facts under the law. So you know the law, you know the facts, and the third thing is you understand what reasonable force is. Reasonable force means that you use the appropriate amount of force based on the law and the facts. Obviously, if somebody's shooting at you, returning fire, shooting back at them, that's reasonable force given the facts. But if somebody's yelling and screaming at you and threatening you verbally, you pulling out a weapon and shooting them may or may not be. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. I have been trained as a use of force expert. But let me just say this. Whatever decision you make sure it's based on the law and the facts. So here we are, back in the middle of the situation. If you're going to run during the situation, you run perpendicular away from the suspect and you're screaming loudly, he's kidnapping me. I don't know him. Please help me. That's very different than the decision to, I don't want to get involved because it could be a husband and wife thing. I get that. Let me tell you, I've seen fights break out, domestic fights break out, and I've chosen not to get involved. Why? Because it wasn't escalating in violence and it was none of my business. I felt bad for them, but that's not something I'm going to get engaged in. So what are we going to do during? We're going to try to remain calm. We're going to have a plan, and we're going to try to put time or distance to gain time and to have a clear escape route. Or we're going to have a defensive posture and tool that's going to be able to take care of the threat right away. And again, whatever that tool is, you better train with it, you better know it, and you better be prepared to use it under the most extreme stress that you can imagine. So as you think about the during and the stress, that's the other thing that we got to think about, and that's the stress management. And that's literally where because we've trained our mind ahead of time by asking ourselves questions all the time. Hey, I wonder what I would do if I'm in a restaurant. I wonder what I would do if somebody came in to rob it. I'm driving through the Walmart parking lot. I wonder what I would do if somebody started shooting. By the way, it has. All the things that are going on, you can mentally train yourself to respond. And the good news is when you have those files in your subconscious mind, this is based on research, you're likely not to go into the freeze of fight, flight, or freeze. You're likely to go into either the fight or a systematic, smart flight, one of those two. So during the fight, we're going to keep our composure. We're going to focus. And by the way, and you've probably seen YouTube videos of this, a gas hose can be a tremendous weapon. If you're spraying gas in somebody's face because they're approaching you, that's a great way to get some time and distance, because now they're covered in gas. Now they have a problem. And let me say this for the during before we move on. You're either going to be attacked or attacked. What are you talking about, Tim? He or she's coming at me. They're attacking me. Yeah, but you can choose to be the attacker. If you have skill and training, you can take that person that's attacking you and make him have to respond because you're skilled. Under the law, if you're attacked, you have the right to defend yourself, folks. If you go into the attack mode, there are no fair fight rules. You put that person down. You stop them from aggressing you. Oh, by the way, it goes back to the law, the facts, and then the reasonableness of what you're doing. But the mindset is not, oh no, I'm going to be the victim. It's the opposite. It's, okay, you brought it. Now I'm going to finish it. And you may say, oh, I'm not a fighter. I'm not. No, yes, you are. You're not prepared mentally or maybe trained enough, but you can be that fighter. And folks, with everything going on, don't be the victim. Choose to be the victor. And then let's talk about the after the fact. Okay. In this case, she's in a car. She's trapped by a madman. She's got to be counting her options. And again, remember that if you're ever kidnapped, you've got to be smart and gentle with your kidnapper, because the kidnapper can decide at any point to snap and hurt you. So you've heard of Stockholm syndrome, where people actually affiliate with their captors over time. They become sympathetic. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about understanding de-escalation, to where you can have conversations, you can talk to them, you can establish rapport. There are basically three things I train on our program for de-escalation. And the first is to connect. You have to be able to connect with your kidnapper. Hey, do you have kids? Hey, just things that will connect. Hey, where are you from? Things that will enable you to establish a relationship, which gets you to the next C, which is communication. Now you want to be able to communicate. It's awful hard. It's harder, unless you're a psychopath, it's harder to kill someone that you're communicating with. And then if you can get to the third C, cooperation, now you're in a position to start making some things happen. Hey, please let me go. That would be good. Uh, in other words, you're trying to gain some kind of cooperation. So after the fact, also, if you're not in a situation where you've been taken, then you want to begin to recall as much as you can for the police when they get there. They need to catch this guy. So every detail you can remember, you need to communicate immediately to the police. If you know him, it's huge that you let them know who he is and where you think he's going, his description, everything you can tell him. And then, by the way, immediately after the event, you need to go to the hospital. You need to get checked out physically, emotionally, and hopefully, God forbid, you weren't assaulted. But you also need to start right then talking to a counselor, debriefing right away. People don't have any idea the trauma of PTSD in an incident like this until sometimes many years later. One of the things we know is that getting engaged right away with processing what happened and then working through it step by step may take years, but it's important for your welfare, for your health, that you take care of caring for yourself. So, folks, I hope and pray this kind of information is helpful to you, the before, the during, and the after. Let me just say this, folks. The days of us just going through our lives, not paying attention, they're gone. They're likely never to return again. It may be that the police aren't going to be there for quite a while. And so, as we say all the time, you've got to own your own security. You have to be your security director. You have to prepare with wisdom and intelligence and think through, what would I do if? Because situations like this are happening, but home invasions are happening more and more. We're starting to see, despite what some political leaders say, oh, there's no rise in crime. I think that's amusing, because all I have to do is watch the news. Either the news is lying and they're making up all these things, or, you know, the politicians maybe aren't being so accurate. So, folks, I hope and pray that this is helpful. Let me encourage you, wherever you are in your training journey and your health journey, go to the next step, push yourself. If you're saying, yeah, I've thought about taking a self-defense, quit thinking about it and do it. Go take a course. If you need some additional training in your weapons handling or whatever it is, if you need to get healthy, start looking at, how do I get healthy? Maybe it's, if you're getting older, maybe it's, I just need to walk more every day. I need that mental alertness. I need to do some chair exercises. I need to do some things that will help me. My friend Matt Pasqualini, which I do a lot back and forth with, if you're an older person, he works with you one-on-one and tries to get some defensive skills trained to you, even with canes and some other things. Just remember, just because you're old does not mean you have to take it. You can be a fighter. The one thing I appreciate is I was raised by a World War II veteran, and my dad loved freedom and he loved our country. And he always told me that not confronting evil is not an option. And I'd leave you with that. There's a lot going on. I get sometimes mocked on this channel. Oh, you're an old guy. And it's interesting that a lot of the folks that mock me on this channel, I don't know what I'm talking about, probably haven't, experienced the things that I've experienced. So it is what it is. So, folks, I hope and pray you stay safe. Please do me a favor. I am being told that, like many conservative channels, I'm being unsubscribed. My viewers are being unsubscribed. So if you know a college girl, or actually all of our women and men need to watch this video. They need to think through, what are the protocols? What are the practices that I need to put in place? Would you do me a favor and like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification and comment, all 5? Like, share, subscribe, notification, and comment. That's going to put me back into the pathway of having my information more available out there. And I know you get asked to do that a lot. I'm sorry, but it's the only way I know to get life-saving information out. So hope and pray that you stay safe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. And in the meantime, God bless you.